Thursday. Get your tickets, platinumlist.net. Hey, it's Joe Mango here down in Asman with the Quest for Adventure guys. They do some amazing kayaking tours through the mangroves, but also they do a little bit of wakeboarding as well, and hopefully I can do better than that guy. Wish me luck. So we've now come to the mangroves in Asman, and we're about to go do some kayaking. Absolutely amazing day down at the mangroves in Asman. Elaine, thank you so much. Is that everything? We covered it all?
No, just one more thing.
Woo! Oh. It's Joe Mango here from If you want to do the longest zip line in the world, then make sure you go to platinumlist.net right now. Wish me luck. 3, 2, 1. Let's do this! The most amazing thing I've ever done. I just finished the longest zip line in the world with Torre Verde down here at Jumbo Days. It was absolutely insane. Get your tickets right now, platinumlist.net.
Hi, I'm Lily.
And I'm Dan.
And we are
The Load-In. We actually got it right. Like awesome. I know everyone. You're looking at us like going, like you're a bit weird. I know it's like proper cheese. We've been like practicing this now for like 9 episodes, and we always epically fail.
We need to get some jazz hands going with that as well.
We have it a few times under the table.
Nice. Guys, welcome to this week's episode. We are joined by the legend that is Charl and Maxine English.
Hello.
How are you?
One and only.
Good.
Indeed, guys, it's really nice to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. It's good. Welcome to our humble studio. Thank you to the guys at Warehouse 4 for hosting us, and to Ian and the team. So, guys, you've been busy. I've been seeing lots of stuff happening.
Well, before we start,
I always get told off because I always jump in.
Because you forget. Everyone might not
sorry,
know who these
I just assume that everybody knows everybody in this town.
Which they probably do, but still.
Legends. Everyone should know these two people.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
All right, so yeah, Charl, been around in Dubai for the last 16 years.
Oof, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, you can see it over here.
It's like we're all feeling it right now.
The rays are coming out, so yeah, just been involved in the industry, really starting as a DJ, you know, and built the Infusion magazine online platform, and being a creating events, and just following this career in Dubai and being part of the history, really.
Massively part of the history, because you were behind things like House of Africa. Yeah, Infusion was obviously a big thing. We used to see them all the time, like popping up everywhere, the little magazines, like in Zatazay.
Yeah, and the full moon parties at Nassimi Beach.
Oh yeah,
you?
Yes.
Yeah. Epic. And 360 and good old days in Dubai.
360.
An institution.
Yeah. It's still going.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Hustling. And Max.
Well, just coming over the hill of 25 years here, which just makes me feel really, same as Charles said, making me feel a bit old. We were having this conversation and talking about days gone by just before. I used to, way back when, write for Infusion, which is feels like a really long time ago. When I used to be out and about, and now I'm like, we were talking about the fact that
and now it's like staying home.
Well, no, I was just saying I now get up to start work at the time that I used to trip in from doing reviews for Charl. So it's all a little bit
how
different.
The world has changed.
No, it's like we're all like old and responsible now, or irresponsible.
Far.
But yeah, no,
speak for yourself.
25 years doing all sorts of events, theatre, music, promoting, generally.
But honestly, you've been
just
everything
everywhere.
from like working with the guys with
Everywhere.
Flash and producing some of the biggest concerts the country's seen. You worked at Duck Tag, you've done the QE2, the Palladium. I remember the first time I met you actually at the Palladium, and it was with, was it the Irish tenors?
The 12
The 12, that was it, the 12 tenors. And Maxine.
12 tenors, 12 Irish tenors.
I think
That's all I have to say.
I'm not too sure if we're allowed to say this, but the first time it was like, hey, you need to meet Maxine. And she was like, here, drink vodka. And it was like free pouring the vodka.
I was going to say, I think I'm responsible alongside you for most of the people in Dubai being drunk for a really
The
long
days
time.
of vodka.
But it's good though. Oh, I mean, we can't do it now though.
That does sound like me.
The hangovers last like 3 or 4 days now.
That's events. That's definitely
That's
events.
back in the heyday, for sure.
We do work in a damn nice industry.
Well, we do when these things happening. Which hopefully things are going to start going back
Well,
soon.
things are going to start happening, aren't they?
I do, and it's like I always say, you know, like at the Middle East, you know, when you do the Middle East Event Awards and everybody gathers in one space, and I'm always really concerned about the rest of the country when all of the event industry and the
what's
creative
happening?
industry and the music industry are all in one room. I'm like, what's happened to the rest of Dubai? Because all the people responsible
they're all
for
going to
everyone else
sleep.
having fun is in this one room, and
They're
it's
all
carnage.
asleep that
Well,
night.
hopefully, I think this year it's like the 14th or the 15th of October, so it's actually my birthday. So, like shots at the bar, tequilas, like it's gonna be better.
Super exciting. We
I think
I think it's
finished
going to be a
all
big
the-
blowout after what's been going on. I think that's definitely going to be a time to get together.
We finished round 1 of judging as well, so we're waiting until we can all get together to do the second round of judging for that as well. And there's some epic
Right.
entries this year, and I think, you know, just talking about, I know we're going to get to it, but just talking about some of the things, it's going to be such a lovely piece to get there and talk about some of the big events and some of the big happenings and some of the things that people have won awards. It's going to be a real together of everybody to kind of go.
It's going to be a real celebration.
I
isn't
think it'll
it?
be a big
100%.
Proper celebration.
I was going to say, because we all know that it's been a bit of a challenging few months. Safe to
bit.
say for all
bit.
of us. For all of us.
World upside down.
Yeah.
100%. But I mean, like, Charl, you've obviously been massively impacted in terms of, you know, you still DJ, you're still a performer.
Yeah, I mean, work stopped for me in February. Everything really stopped.
Yeah, and it was literally overnight.
Yeah, overnight everything stopped like everybody else, and then just sitting in this process and what's
going
happening in
on?
the world, what's going on.
The world's biggest holding pattern.
And you know, it was mixed emotions. Like every day, I would feel upset or happy or good or ideas, and you would try something and it would fail, and like this and that, and it was just this kind of roller coaster, really.
Yeah.
And I guess where it all started was like I just started to speaking to people in the industry. Dan, I spoke to you and Maxine and Danny and a few other people, just having chats, and I was like, it just came to me one day. I was like, why don't we just all sit around on a table and start conversating, guys? Like we've never done this. We've all
We haven't had time, have we?
we haven't had time.
I was gonna say, no one's
we've
got
been
time.
all fighting for our own little piece, and it's been very like, you know, like this, and just send the invite out. And I guess that's how it started. You know, started just with a group of artists and small businesses, kind of my little black book.
Yeah.
And
Well,
started
that little black book was quite big. So I think,
It's a huge black
the
book.
first Zoom call was like 5 hours long.
Yeah, it was a little bit long.
And there's like 100 odd people on that call.
I mean, I literally had to Google how to host Zoom, right? 101
We
for
were just
dummies.
talking about this,
I had to
weren't
do
we?
101 for dummies. What am I supposed to do here?
But we've all had to do that through this.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Zoom events.
You know, but I mean, you know, we finally all got together, and it was really like, hey, hey guys, what's happening? How can we help each other? You know, what's going on? And through that, like, kind of the united voice of actually what's going on in the industry started coming out, you know?
Because that's how, I guess, the creative collective was founded.
I think so. I think from a perspective of there's, as Charles said, there's been a pre-corona, which is, you know, how we almost have to look at it now, PC, is that there was a lot of voices all talking, but all going in the, you know, in separate directions, and they weren't all, it wasn't a united voice. And then what we found was that actually when you start to talk, yes, not everyone has the same opinion, but there are some big general pieces that everyone tends to agree on that needs to change, that we need to work on, that we need to work together. And actually, you know, there's a whole bunch of people who want to have one voice, and if that voice was one rather than several hundred, and it was all funneled and channeled into the right places, and people could actually listen, because there seems to be this kind of gap between what everybody's saying, what's happening, and then there's no one funneling information down or funneling information up. And that's kind of where the creative collective started, was okay, let's get all of your extensive black book and all of these voices and all of these opinions wrangle them into one place.
There's a lot of them.
A lot of wrangling. And then let's let's pick some tangible things that we think we can, change, and be some. Let's as they always say, let's be the change you want to see.
I was going to say, what are some of those type of discussions you've been having? Like, what are those tangible change points that you guys or the Creative Collective are looking to help evolve? And
well, I think firstly it's just creating, like Maxine, creating the platform, right, to have this united voice and all have one vision on what it is. What we've learned through these Zoom calls in the beginning was there's just similar issues, and we've never sat down, we've never addressed them, and literally everybody was in a situation, and like they really started thinking, like, if we move forward, how do I want to move forward in this country? How do I protect myself? How do I make sure I'm secure? Because shit was real for a lot of artists, for a lot of people. So,
and I think we've talked about kind of going back to the beginning with a lot of it, because there's a lot of questions about, there's always the big ones, permits, permissions, visas, and we've seen a lot of change in the last 20 years, in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years. We've seen those changes come in terms of, permits and things going online. They got faster, they got better, there's different types of freelance visas available, but not always for musicians, not always for artists, not always in the right specific sphere that we need to be. So actually, when we started to pull together some of the big tangibles, it was tangible one, let's create a format and a framework where there is a space that people can talk into and that is legally recognized to be able to have the conversations, because at the moment that's where ILEA came in. So we have gone to ILEA to say, look, it's the UAE, we want to do this right. We want to be able to sit in front of the right people like DTCM, like Dubai Calendar, like DED, and have proper conversations about how we continue the move forward of the creative community and the cultural community, because they are making great shapes now in the country. But the voices of everybody need to be a part of that change. It can't just be up at the top. But we can't do that unless we are legal and we are right and we are formed correctly, which is where we're at now in forming the actual framework. And then post that, we've kind of highlighted 2 or 3 areas that have task forces now behind them that we're going to go to work on. One is kind of an industry rate card, which is being looked at because there's a big conversation about who charges what.
That's been going on for years. That's been a discussion for a very long time. And I think it's very valid.
It's a tricky one also to manage. Like, how do you, implement this? It's really just...
Well, how do you police it?
How do you police it? And that's when it comes down to this community that we are, right? And we police ourselves. And we say together, this is how we want to operate, and we communicate with each other, because that's the key. We've never communicated. And it's also important with all of this for the people in the community to raise their voice. And the people who's been here for a long time, because their voice has value. And they are the people that's been here for a long time, being legal, working, so we want to see a better future.
But also the question for that is as we say every time a problem comes up and every time one of these tangible changes come up is, we let's go back 5 steps, hold on a second. The reality is if you were, if you jump ahead to become a member of the Creative Collective and to have the conversation and to have your voice heard, you need to be legal. But you can't just say that. So the Creative Collective is coming at it from a different direction, which is, how can we help you to understand what being legal means? We're not just going to say go away and get legal. We're going to say to you, this is how you get legal. And as we go through the process, it means that we've already highlighted certain areas where we go, okay, we can see that you as a performer, there's nothing that quite fits for you. Okay, then let's go and have that conversation with DED and DTCM to say, this one doesn't really work. How can you help us and us help you to change the permits and visas and the permissions? So it's going back to, it's almost education consistently at the beginning. How do you get legal? How do you have a voice? How do you talk to the people that you want to talk to? How do we do these things rather than, end up at this is the change we want to see? It's kind of going back to that very, very beginning piece and saying, how do we start those conversations with the right people?
And I was going to say, all those elements have to work hand in hand. Because in order to get the help, we've been looking at this through the cultural grant and the different things which have been applied over.
Missed because of the cultural grant, because of their visa status.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's grey area, they're an artist and another artist, and they can't get the...
Well, it's building the right foundations, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what...
Well, it's almost
from
because...
what I can hear is what you're really...
I think it's just because the industry has
from.
evolved and grown so fast that it's almost like it's grown too quick that you can't keep up with it. And I guess those foundations have never necessarily
Well, it's always
been...
just been Band-Aid. It's just keep going, because events is so fast.
And I think that's the thing. There's never been a pause.
No.
There's never been a moment for... And there's never been...
Which is a great thing. It
the
just
world.
says, as events, we've been so lucky that we never had a pause, but it's worked against us when it actually hit a pause.
Well, I was going to say,
100%.
because we've never had that time to really put in the systems, the processes, the procedures, procedures that needed to be in place should something happen. It's only once it's happened that the wheels have fallen off and everyone's like, oh my God, how can I get help? It's like, you can't get help because...
Like full
we've all been doing it ourselves.
We've
been all on our own mission, like just doing it by ourselves and just trying to grab the piece of the pie. But now that we realize, like, we actually need to be together.
And the very foundation of that is exactly what Charles says: is coming together is the ethics. So at the moment, those ethics are being written, and one of the big tangible changes that we see, that we hope for, and that we really want to see come into practice is that forming something like the Creative Collective that has morals and it has a mission and it has a vision and it has values and a code of ethics is that we're not the police. That's what you're saying. Where do you start to begin to start to police? We're not the police, we're a platform. And the idea is that hopefully we can get to a place where the people who are part of the Creative Collective uphold those ethics and value people. And it will shine a light on the people who are ethical. It will shine a light on the people who work well. It will shine a light on those people. And then hopefully we look at some of the bigger companies and we look to the government to say, well, that's who we want to work with. And rather than start, policing the ones that don't work in the right way, that make life a little bit more challenging for all of us who've been here and who are trying to make a way, instead of focusing on them doing wrong, let's shine the light on everyone who's working really hard to be legal, to get things right, to understand, to work. We want to bring new people here. We want people to know that they can come here and it's easy to work and it's ethical.
By doing that, you're going to also get clients who will go, I don't want to work with that, I want to work with this.
And that's like the dream, isn't it?
I'm of the school of thought, and the world we're going to step into, that is going to be the way forward. Being truthful, being honorable, being fair, being community, giving everybody, being grateful. That's the world we're going to step into, and our industry need to step into that. There's no reason why we can't. Now's the time to really plant those seeds and make the changes.
And that piece as well, we've talked about the fact that there is a community that have put themselves together for the F&B world, who are also doing the same as us, who are currently getting legal and they're forming their own collective. We've got the Creative Collective, there's the Middle East Wedding Association, there are venues and promoters, and all of when you actually look at the wider crossover areas, it's so massive, but actually if they've all got representation, we can all work together. So the creatives can work with the venues, who can work with the wedding guys, who can work with the F&B guys to go, how do we safely get back to work? How can we support our government to show them, to give them our knowledge? In terms of if they're gonna issue a statement that we now can have solo performers back to work, let's get some clarity on what that means, because they have to wear masks. So you announce that a solo performer can go back to work, but you then caveat that with they all have to wear masks, which means instant outrage, because everyone's like, I'm a sax player, I'm a singer, how does it work?
How does it work? And there's lights.
You can barely understand someone who's wearing a mask, let alone trying to sing through one.
So that lack of communication, it's not that anything's incorrect, it's just that we talk about this and I find there's that gap. So the information that comes this way and the information that goes this way, it needs to be clarified and funneled. And if there's a beautiful piece where there's a collective in the middle that goes, okay, just before we announce that, let's clarify what the mask is for. What does that mean for saxophonists?
Just a question.
What does that mean for singers? And if you can just caveat that in one small, easy go, it will just cause less confusion. It's all about communication.
Because I think something similar is happening in the UK now. They've announced that you have to wear masks and stuff, and I think in the guidance they were also talking about social distancing and masks for performers. But they actually clarified after these type of discussions with established entities in the UK for performers. It's like if you're a brass or a wind instrument player, musician, or if you're a singer, then obviously you can't wear a mask. So there's different kind of guidelines which will help mitigate that. So it's kind of like finding like a common sense approach, I guess.
That's it. It's communication and a common sense approach. And also at the minute with everybody who is, especially in the creative world, because they want to get back to work, there's a lot of
angst.
There is
little bit of emotion, a little bit of passion, bit of rage thrown in, and it creates kind of a light the blue touch paper and retire situation where information is received and there's an instant response and there's a
lot of knee jerk, but then at the same time, a lot of the rules and things that are coming out are also knee jerk as well, because they're trying to be as fast as they can.
And we are moving, and that's the one thing.
But I think sometimes if they stop for a second and thought about it before they sent it out,
100%.
I
think that goes for everything, but I'm going to touch upon the conversation you had with Issam, the CEO from DTC.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great conversation.
Great.
But, you know, and he was very candid and he was very open and said, you know, Issam, yes. I said that, the CEO. You missed that one. Sorry, the CEO from DTCM.
I'm so sorry.
It was a great conversation, so thank you for arranging that one. But he was very candid and said, you know, everybody wants to get back to business, and the events industry and entertainment in particular is fundamental to everything that stands, you know, within Dubai. You know, from when I think like Summer Surprises, like I think it's like, how old is it? I'm going to get this wrong. 25, 50 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
We're going to be kicked out for getting that wrong.
Oh, my gosh, it's been around as long as I've been around. So,
but he was very candid and said it's such a dynamic and fluid situation that things are changing on a day-to-day basis.
Sure, exactly.
And we've had similar conversations with, you know, departments of immigration and, you know, the banking sectors, financial sectors.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate, you know, lots of guidance is coming out, and it does need that clarity, but it also needs, you know, the discussions and the dialogue from the grassroots to be able to influence some of that, I guess, and to help direct it.
I think it's always about having an expert in an industry. And I'm not saying that's me, that's more Charl from a musician point of view. But it's interesting when we looked at the creative collective, the types of people that you need to put together to be able to have that voice, because you need a performer, but you also need someone who runs a business for performers, to understands that side of the piece.
It's two very different perspectives,
Very, and you know, we've also got people who are in big bands. We've also got people who run venues. We've got SMEs, we've got individuals, you've got groups, and it's very interesting because you've got to look at all sides of the equation.
Yeah.
But if you can get industry leaders from all these different areas, you know, you yourself have been an absolutely massive component of feeding into the creative collective setup of it. And from that perspective of how do you legally set up because of your work with ILEA, you know, trying to explain those pieces. And I think those jigsaw pieces of business, creative, music, if we can create a space for those voices to go to the government, but for the government to come to and say, how does this work for you? Is this working for you? What would be a better solution so that we can help? In the same from a safety perspective, we can musicians can have conversations about saxophonists and things that possibly aren't crossing everybody's mind right now because there's so much to achieve.
Well, I was going to say, but that's also like the really exciting part of it, I guess, is because everyone's been working so much in the different silos and not fully understanding or appreciating what the other person requires or needs.
100%.
So some of the conversation was quite interesting looking at a musician and DJ point of view versus a venue point of view, and it'd be really nice now to start seeing those collaborations come together, whereas people start thinking more things like not just necessarily performance, but also the business aspect.
It brings understanding as well.
How do we as performers, as a DJ, support that business getting additional footfall in there, or keeping people happy, or promoting and elevating a brand, and how in turn do they provide employment opportunities and a creative space to be able to do stuff?
And also, I think sometimes if you can explain things to people, there's, like I say, there's a lot of kind of rage around and a lot of upset people, but some explanations, such as just on a very simple basis, you've got people saying, just open your restaurant and let me perform in it. And it's like, yeah, but you also have to understand that business owner, that restaurant owner, if he opens his business and can only put 30% of footfall in there, but he's still paying 100% rent.
It's not financially viable.
It's not going to happen. And they go, we didn't think about that because I was thinking about me as a musician. So if you can caveat things so that there's a bit more understanding, you know, there's restaurants, people who I have residencies with who said, I can't pay a performer to be in this bar until I can pay my staff full. I can't, and that's chicken and egg, because if you put a performer in there, it's going to help with your atmosphere, and you might get more people coming back to your restaurant, which would mean that you're then going to be able to bring some. It's chicken and egg, isn't it?
That's where hopefully you can have those, I guess, civil conversations and those collaborations calmly, and to be like, okay, well, I know your pain, I know my pain, and let's try and meet in the middle somewhere. I
mean, that's why I appreciate this conversation with Issam so much. You know, just. For me, it was kind of this little moment. All of a sudden, I'm sitting on Instagram speaking to the CEO of DTCM and having a conversation just from from these Zoom calls, but what I got out of that is that they need us. They need to have a conversation with us to understand.
Open.
They want to
they're
hear from
open,
you.
and also I think safety and health is important because they're taking it day by day, and we have to walk with them and actually be also policing ourselves in terms of safety around where we perform and keep these standards up. The good thing is that these conversations are happening. I've got them on WhatsApp. So,
it's amazing.
Like there's movement,
and it feels a little overwhelming. And we talked about this yesterday, where I said to Charl, just stop for a second. In literally 2 months, we have gone from being a community of individuals to actually having conversations. All of a sudden, we're almost there. We're almost legal. There's an actual collective. There's a logo. There's a group of people conversing every single Sunday. There's a Facebook group. There's a platform for people to say, these are the ethics I want you to write down. These are the problems that I want you to take to DTCM. These are the problems I want you to take to DED. And if you look at the time span of what has been achieved in such a short time, and I said that, don't let it get overwhelming. Think about what has been achieved already.
100% in three very short
months. Thank you, COVID.
The positives.
We keep saying it's a silver lining. You've got to see the silver lining in it all.
Well, Dan and I did a webinar a little while ago, and we talked about it prior to the webinar, and I said, please, can we have a positive webinar? Can we talk about the positives that come out of this? Because it's been such doom and gloom. And it is doom and gloom, but there is positives to be taken from it. And you said all the way back then, I think we're going to come out of this a more unified community 100%. At the end. And we're seeing
it's the only way as far as I'm concerned. And the new way that I want to live my life and I want to walk with people like this in this community. This is just the future. This is the way life is going to be in all industries. And
I think it's really interesting because I'm sure to talk like when I first got here in like 2008, there was definitely more of a community feel to things. Like we all knew each other. We were just talking earlier when we first got here about drinking
bullfrogs together.
Or bullfrogs down at what was it called? Rock Bottom.
Rock Bottom. Who hasn't been?
But I think and the industry massively grew after the first financial crisis in like 2008, and I guess it became very segmented. Everybody was like running their own agenda. And
everyone was hustling.
And that's a good thing. Like Dubai's a city of hustlers. And we wouldn't be here if we weren't. But I think it kind of control. And it was like running that rat race. You're on that hamster wheel and you're spinning around, and then the wheels completely fell off. So the silver lining, and we talked about this with other guests, is that you have the ability to now rebuild it and reimagine it the way that it actually should be, or the way that you want it to be. And I think it's really nice to see these kind of collaborations and community spirit coming back again.
We have to take stock.
100%.
Honestly, take stock.
I think the key word is collaboration.
We can't be here again. We can't come back to a situation like this and not be ready.
It's taught us quite a lot that a lot of us weren't ready for it. And like you said, we were 100 miles an hour and then all of a sudden went,
what just happened?
Halted. I mean, overnight, I went from having my calendar of 2020 blocked through to 2021 to zero. And I'm not afraid. There's a lot of people who are not talking about it as well. They're not talking about the loss. And I also think that's the big conversation. Look, I set up a new company in October 2019. In February, I took on a director of operations. We were rammed. I had work coming out of my ears. We were about to take office space, and it was huge. We, the move off of the dining table into the office space is always scary, and then.
And then you
back to the dining table.
To go back to the dining table.
Back to the dining table.
But that's true though, because we've said this to a couple of guests. It's like 2020 was our year. We were talking about Expo and everything was full steam ahead, and we were ploughing through and we were growing, and it just came to a crashing halt. But in many ways, that's actually quite an interesting and I guess refreshing. It doesn't feel it all the time, but it'll be a very interesting place to start from again.
It is.
Because it will rebuild.
I think
we really have to trust the process.
That's very true, actually.
That's what I tell my team.
Around the world.
You're really good at that. You have like the whole Zen world.
There's a much bigger picture here than our industry.
It's exactly right.
Trust this process of what's happening in the world right now and what is bringing up, because all of the darkness is coming up. So trust this process. Really.
Well, think about it. If it didn't happen now and it happened further down the track, it could have even been worse.
I think so, and I also think that one of the main problems when it comes to event people is that, and I've talked about this over and over again, but everybody was like, how do we pivot? And I even wrote an article about saying, stop using the word pivot, because event people pivot every day, 5 times a day, 100 times a day.
Yeah.
We do
On
it without
site.
even thinking. We all have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then all of a sudden, and I think the big piece for me was that it took away our ability to have a plan B, C, D, E, or F because we didn't.
We were no longer-
no one knew. No
we
one
were-
in the world knew. And you're
Still
like,
don't know.
Well, we were no longer in control. That's the thing.
And you
It's
can't do
like,
that with event people.
what do we do now?
I was like, what do you mean there's a virus? I'll find a vaccine. Like, blow out.
On it.
Write the brief.
On it.
Give it to the tech team.
On it, on it, on it. We're on it. Give me for me, back of a fag packet. We'll work
Yeah,
it out.
there we
Plan
go.
F. Not a
Signed
problem.
off.
Done. But that was the thing.
Yeah.
You take a bunch of musicians, creatives, who live their lives planning, and all of a sudden there's no, and everybody kept asking, and that was where we were at with the webinar, and this is what Charl and I we talk about a lot, is everyone keeps going, when will live, and you're like, no one knows, there's no magic
I
ball.
couldn't
Yeah.
get that out of Isam as
You
well.
couldn't-
I try to ask.
I think you tried.
directly,
You asked it like 3 or 4 times in a different way.
No, but I also understand because it's everything
Well,
is
they can't
changing.
because then they're going to hold on to
they
that
don't
as well.
really-
And if
it
they
becomes
miss that,
written
then it
in-
becomes another angle.
They also don't know, and if they move too fast, it could be
Well, it could be
worse for
detrimental.
us
Yeah.
to take 2 steps back. So we have to like kind of just little bit by little bit. But this is where it comes in to have this conversation to make it faster, better, quicker, and be part of the Dubai plan to come back as quickly as possible.
But as Charles says,
You
it's
know,
walking with
let
them.
them do these articles like they do around the world about all these amazing events that's happening.
Yeah.
We should be doing them in Dubai right now.
Yeah.
I think one of the real nice takeaways from that conversation was just to have that reiterated that the events industry is so vital to everything which happens here, because we've all had those really dark days where we feel kind of worthless. You know, we're not frontline workers, we're not out, they're kind
No
of
one's
changing the
thinking
world.
about us.
Yeah, no one. No one's been really thinking about us, but they will, and I think that's definitely going to start changing soon.
Well, they will. I mean, we always laugh and joke and say, like I said at the very beginning of this, if you take all of us out for one night and put us
What's
all in
gonna
one room,
happen?
I genuinely ask the question every year at the Middle East event. It was, what's the rest of Dubai doing tonight? Because
Yeah.
all the fun makers are in one room. But that's what everyone is: the performers, the creatives, the graphic designers, the party planners, the events, the festivals, the dancers, that every last piece of what a creative community
Well,
is.
a big part of what Dubai is.
It's what it
the
sits
events.
on.
It's what we bring to the table.
And as you said earlier, people ask the question a lot, what's Dubai's culture? And I'm like, you're looking at it.
Yeah.
There is this
That's actually true.
epic scene of people who keep this place moving and going forward. And we heard yesterday that La Pearl is opening.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Again, we've
Also
been.
enjoy this
enjoy
moment
it.
with this bit space. When she's painting now,
I'm
she's
a
telling
painter
me,
now.
Yeah, but
I'm a painter
all the
decorator.
activities,
You're gonna help me do
you
my
know,
kitchen.
I'm
Do
on
these
it.
things you've been wanting to do.
But going back to what we were just talking about a second ago, Dubai has been founded on the events industry.
Hugely.
From
Big time.
Dubai Summer Surprises to the film festivals back in the day.
Formula One.
Like all these different, the UAE in general as well.
Massive.
And I think this is where we're going to start to see, hopefully in the next month or so, like Charl just mentioned, we're going to start to come into our own. Where we're going to be the people which are going to help rebuild many aspects, I guess, of the tourism industry, of the entertainment industry, the
government
business
will look
community.
to us to
Of
support
course.
that, and it's nice that, again, we want them to look locally to support the people who are here. There's a lot of people who are here, and if we can get people to look that way, I'm seeing my clients look to how do we employ locally, how do we support what's already there. And again, that's a voice that we need to have, to say to people, don't forget they're here, and they're epic. You don't need to look to the UK every time. You don't need to look to the US every time. Yes, okay, that happens, but
I think budgets are going to make sure of that as well.
and flights,
It's kind of a good thing for local
It's a
artists.
great
to
thing.
perform.
I
we
think it's
can't fly them in,
fantastic.
so use what you have
Yeah.
here. And also, when you go back to what we talked about, which is how can the creative collective help? Some of that educational pieces, I was joking earlier, as a promoter and as someone who books talent and books entertainment, I said to Charl, any performer who comes out the end of literally not being able to leave their house and not being able to do anything for 3 months without an epic profile, without all their documents in order, without everything ready to rock and roll, if you have not spent your last 3 months wisely, I genuinely, there's no hope for you.
Yeah.
And so as a frustrated, promoter who's looking to artists to say, why do you not have a picture of your passport? Come on. These
always the
things,
same.
as a creative collective, we've noted that down, that look, how can we help you get your profile
Make
in
sure you're
order?
ready.
This is what you should have. When someone asks you, simple as when Maxine writes a post on Facebook that says, email me your profile and rates, and it says, do not
Email.
send me a friend request, don't send a friend request.
The best one that I saw was this week. You asked for like a female
Yep.
person. I can't remember, a female musician or something.
Female musos.
And I think like out of all of the posts, it's like, I'd like to politely remind you I'm looking for a female.
Oh, no way.
And
Yeah.
it was constantly like, can you refer back to the message?
I was like, up to the top. And in
Wow.
the end, I had to write edit, and in capital letters was like, do not
Female.
PM me. It's a female. Send me an email, and if you don't send your rates,
Well, that's
I'm
the
going to
thing.
ignore you.
That's the frustrating thing, though. It's like, here's the email. Send it to an email, and then I'll see just, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go.
But
and
it's
you're
because,
like,
you know,
part of
the
it-
creatives
the
don't follow
creatives.
direction,
And that is
instruction
what
properly.
The
No, they don't.
collective is going to sort out.
But that's
So
why-
that's what, honestly, on a really boring
easy,
scale,
easy.
Charles like
Set
Maxine
expectations down.
herding kittens, Maxine. And I'm like, but if we can just do a little bit of
Yeah.
teaching to say,
It's gonna
seriously,
go such a
this
long
is what
way.
you need a TV reel.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to say, dear Maxine, don't just write,
Hi.
see attached. You know,
Yeah.
and there are some epic artists out there who have
Yeah.
their stuff together. You know, they know what they're doing, and it means that if we can teach some of the newbies, the babies as I call them, who are new
Yeah.
here, how can you become an artist that a promoter always goes back to?
Yeah.
How can you become the preferred person? How can we help you to do that? Because I have preferred artists who I know they're on it. I
Yeah.
can put them in
You
front
don't
of
have to worry.
someone. I don't have to worry about them. I know they're going to turn up on time. I don't have to call them 5 times to find
Yeah.
out where they are. They'll do their due diligence.
Yeah.
They'll work out where to park.
Because they make your
all
life
of that
easier.
stuff. They just make your life
Yeah,
easier.
they're really good at what they do, but they make life easier.
And so this is, from when you look at the creative collective, this is why you need a venue. This is why you need a promoter as well as a musician, because you've got to look at it from every angle. How can a venue help a muso?
Yeah.
How can a graphic designer collaborate with a musician to create them a brand? How can we put everyone together
It's like you said,
to support each other?
communication.
Comms.
Which is what I think is really exciting for the creative collective. I think 100% is definitely needed. Obviously,
Collaboration, I think, is the key now moving
Yeah.
forward. Let's collaborate. Let's
all about
create.
the
Be
Cs.
creative, right?
It is
Be
all about the
creative.
Cs.
Creative,
Let's
collective,
create.
collaboration, communication.
Yeah.
It's all the big C's.
Charl
All
Chaka,
right.
that's 2 C's.
Charl.
Wow.
we like it, we like
We
it.
love it. But it's super, super important that there's a space for people. And I think that's what Charl has created.
Yeah.
And I know that the other guys who are part of the board and the advisors and all the ambassadors and all the people
Yeah.
who are like throwing their weight at it, there's people doing all sorts of work, which is great. And it's also really lovely to see a group of people going, me, I want to help.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
much bigger than me. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a whole bunch of people that's been raising their hands, has been involved, and are doing things much better than I can do it.
Yeah, but
and
it
just
takes one
rolling
person
with
to
it,
step
you
out.
know?
It does. It needs an El
And
Presidente, as we
it's
call
important
it.
to keep that momentum going and speak to the right people. And again, we're an open book. You know, I have my phone out there. Anybody can call me.
Yeah.
I have personal conversations with people, try and help and assist.
Not me.
Not Maxine. You know,
No one could-
that's my role. That's my role. She
Don't
does the
call
PR.
me.
You know, we all have our space.
You're going to take that back when people are calling you at 8 a.m. to talk about permits.
Like,
What? I'm in bed.
Yeah, no, Charl is the heart. That's
Yeah.
what we say.
We need
Charl
that.
is
That's
El
for sure.
Presidente. He's the heart of it. And that's the joy of it, is that it comes from that place. It came from a place of
It's authentic.
heart. Genuinely, don't call me at 2 a.m.
came in a
I'm
meditation.
I'm not your girl.
Really?
Came in a meditation. Yeah, I was just.
Has it manifested more or less into what you thought it would be, or did you not have any expectations?
I had no idea, Dan. It really just started with wanting to help. Like I was in a situation, all the artists were in a situation. Let's have a conversation. How can
Yeah.
we help? How can we? Because I knew it's strong. If we're together, we'll be stronger. That's
Yeah.
where it came from, you know. And it's just really just started blowing up. More people again.
Well, it's taken a life of its
now
own.
It's taking its life of its own. I'm hearing on a daily basis what's happening behind the scenes and. A whole bunch
Welcome
of
to the
things.
events industry.
You know?
How can
And-
people get involved?
So currently at the moment, we have made and I'm going to commit this again, the 20th of July, where there's a Facebook WhatsApp group. And the Facebook group is where all the information comes from. The WhatsApp group is just more of a communication, collaboration. People are talking about rates, they're talking about opportunities, there's jobs going in there. It's a really nice collaborative space, and Charl will add anybody who wants to be a part of that. Go join the Facebook group, and that's
The
where
Creative Collective.
the
Yeah.
Creative
It's
Collective.
been called a few things.
It's
but
been
we-
called a few things.
I like it.
We're there.
Yeah,
TCC.
TCC. I like it.
Yeah.
And so from that, if you join the Facebook group, we then put announcements in there to say this is where we're at. So on the 20th of July, we will be delivering into the Facebook group the mission, vision, and values,
Nice.
the code of ethics,
Yeah.
the framework. There will be a membership criteria.
Yeah.
So there will be different levels, different spaces for people to become members, and we'll outline what those are and what the criteria are, because as we said before, it's really important that everyone who becomes a member of the Creative is legal.
Yeah.
But that even if you're not, there will still be a space for us to help you get to where you need to be. It's not a, you can't talk to us if you're not legal. It's a come to us and we'll help you get there so that you can.
Which is valid.
That's
And it's
great.
definitely
That's
needed.
great.
It will be eventually a paid membership, which will
Yeah.
then eventually in the future allow us to be able to do things on a slightly bigger scale. We're just kind of working that out with ILEA now as we go. And how that will all get managed. But the 20th of July, we'll see those ethics and the framework and the criteria put out, and how it will, and who's leading what task force and doing what bit, just to give people more of a solid, documented idea of what the Creative Collective looks like. Dan was a big part of helping in the very beginning and did a survey for us.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And the response to that survey was probably one of the things that made me want to get involved more, because at the beginning, with all the voices, it was loud and a little bit chaotic.
It's overwhelming, especially when you're trying to like figure out what the hell's going on with COVID at the best of times.
And your own life and
business,
everything,
trying to pay the bills.
But
A lot of talk, little action.
But the survey came back, and there's a lot of big voices in the events industry, as we all know. We're some of them, and then there's a lot of quiet voices who were like, we really want a representative of us. We really want someone to corral us. We really want someone to be a small group that will go and talk to DED and ILEA and DTCM and Dubai Calendar. We want it, and we're happy to pay for it, and we want to be legal. And a big part of that survey was, we want to be legal. And they want to, as we said, leave them over there in the dark. And if you want to go work with the darkness, you'll get what you get.
For it.
You know, if you want to work with people who are not legal, that's where you're at. And then over here is shining a light on people who can then get help on things, simple things like, what should you have in place when you are hired? Should you have an LPO? What does a quote look like? We're talking about creating templates that you can download. What is an MOU? What is an LPO? What is a quote? What do you need to have in order to make sure that you've at least got the right paperwork to start getting you paid if you haven't been paid? We're not the police. We're not going to go and get you paid, but we're going to give you the materials to make sure that you're able to go and get yourself. And we're going to teach you how to do that. That's what we're there for. It's a supportive arm to say, look, I know what I need in place because I've been here and I'm big enough and ugly enough to know what paperwork I need in place. You might be a baby, you might be just, not just, but I'm a business. I have a trade license. If you are an individual performer and you're a creative, you said it perfectly before, and they're like, Maxine, what's an LPO and why do I need one? I just have my guitar. I just want to play my guitar.
Just want to play music.
I just want to play music, and that's okay.
That's the beauty of creative.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of it. But you've got to either have someone like a promoter who's going to look after you.
You want to make sure
if you don't want to
that
do
they
it,
flourish.
you need to make sure you've got the right promoter who's not ripping you off. You will, because we know they exist. Not me. But you have to. There was a post went up in the Professional Musicians the other week where I said, email me with another one, and someone who I don't know said, surely you should just tell us how much the gig is and we'll decide. Why do you want to know our rates? And it was a bit like of a great friend of yours and mine, Stewie Kennedy. I said, who also creative, just weighed in and said, there needs to be more people like Maxine who we know will pay us, and she is trying to get the best gig for you. So if you tell her what your rate is, she will go away and try and match it. So you have to trust in that. And the guy came straight back and said, it's great to have a recommendation that this is a good promoter, because in this day and age, we don't know who is and who isn't. And it was so nice to see reputationally that happens in the same way as you see. I'm not sure, there was a post went up the other day and it was about 3 people like Dan Bolton. That's who you need. And when you start to see that, that's what the Creative Collective is. How can we recommend the right people and shine a light on the people who will look after you?
And an official platform that does that. Like, it's great to have it on Facebook and different platforms, but to actually have somewhere central that has its credibility. And people can go there. They don't have to keep fishing around to try and find it.
We refer to it, instead of everyone's worried about the name and shame, because you can't do that here. So
name and shine. I like it.
Name and shine. It's name and shine. So
that's
now
really good idea,
you want to go, why are you not on that list?
Exactly.
Why are you not on that list? You want to work so hard that you are on the name and shine list. You want to go, right, I'm working with this venue. There they are. They're a tick.
Perfect.
That's what you want. They're ethical, they're legal, they've got the right membership criteria. And like I said earlier, the big dream is some of the bigger companies going, we just only want to work with people who are part of the Creative Collective, because we know that they've got the right
Well, I'm going to say, it's kind of like a nice way to wrap this up slightly. It's because I always say we're like a bunch of misfits. Anyone that works in the creative industry, like we're a little bit...
We have to be, right?
Like we have to be, that's why we do it. But it's nice finally that we're kind of getting our act together. And hopefully now the brands and the clients and the venues and the promoters and all these different people, which have kind of had their act together slightly before, will like to look at us now and go, you know what? You know, these guys are legit now and they're working hard to really build that professional collaboration.
So important to be professional and legitimate.
So talk about legitimacy really quickly. You mentioned ILEA,
Yes.
but just to be really clear, the Creative Collective is a completely independent gathering grouping of people, and it's under ILEA for its legal framework.
Yeah, so we're just currently working out the MOU with them now.
Yeah.
It's a body in and of itself, but that is a part of ILEA, so that we're completely legal and able to go and knock on the doors that we want to knock on the doors of. But it comes back to the people who represent people. We're asking them all to be legal and legitimate. So the Creative Collective itself has got to be, but the body in and of itself is a completely separate piece.
Nice. And then what's next, apart from lots more hard work?
I'm taking it day by day, guys. Seeing what's the news, what's the goss, what's happening, and then deciding which way I'm going to move and put my energy to. But like everybody else, the artists, we want to get back to work. We want to be part of tourism. We want to bring it back. And it's just making sure that we're safe and having these conversations. So I'm taking it day by day.
Next is the 20th of July.
I was going to say 20th of July. Looking forward to seeing Mission, Vision, Values and Ethics.
Now we put it out there.
There you go.
Yeah, we said it. We keep saying it,
and I just sure this goes live before.
I just keep putting it out into the ether that
I'll be calling you on the 19th.
How you doing?
11:59. How you doing?
I'm doing it.
So guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
And also thank you for your hard work. I know the entertainment industry has been massively impacted.
As you said, herding cats.
Yeah, herding cats.
Yeah.
Max is used to that though. She likes cats.
Yeah, she likes that job actually.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And good luck with everything. We're looking forward to supporting more.
Yeah, let's see what happens, eh?
Thank you.
Watch this space.
Deal. Thanks, guys.
This is probably the most iconic hotel in the UAE and possibly the world. Let's go check out the water park. It's been a pretty amazing day. Get your ticket